Let's come back home for now. The EFF has joined calls for pitbulls to be banned as domestic animals. 2 children recently died in pitbull attacks. This was in the Free State, and there have been reports of other vicious attacks since the beginning of this year. Let's talk about this with Mgcini Tshwaku, the EFF's Member of Parliament. Mr. Tshwaku, a very good afternoon to you. Grateful for your time. Why do you think a ban is the solution to what we've witnessed in recent weeks?
No, thank you very much and welcome. Thank you very much for inviting us into this program. Look, I don't think that this is a topic that we need to politicize on, and we need to just be very honest and look at the facts of what is happening. Currently, there are reported now 3 cases of the children which have been mauled by the dogs, by these pit bulls. And these dogs, they showed, their way that they are so vicious, and they kill. They actually go for the kill. Looks as if they are like uncontrollable, and the manner that they attack, they actually go for the neck. It means that they actually really want to really kill individuals. So as the EFF, we're saying that because of these cases like this, and also the suffering that has been caused by on the families of these little kids, and we found that we are of the view that it is actually a right way to do in terms of actually calling for the ban of this, and also as part of the of the legislatures and Parliament. So we're looking now in terms of really pursuing this on a legislative route, where we probably raise a private member bill so that we can actually change the law so that we can call, so that these pit bulls can actually be banned. You will see that in many countries, like the ones that are actually on the top of my mind, like the Netherlands, France, Germany, New Zealand, Venezuela, Argentina, Malaysians, these type of breeds have actually been banned. So I don't know why in South Africa we are still having this kind of a thing. But if I can take this further, maybe some of the people, something that we don't understand about these breeds, something that I've been reading about and trying to read to say, but what is the reason why there are individuals who are actually breeding this type of animals? We must not forget that there's an illegal activity which is going on, which is the dog fights. And the dog fights are actually happening in many areas. And it's a sport, it's an illegal sport that we actually it's not actually has been, being published many times and everywhere. But the dog fight is actually real, it is happening. And it is actually one of the drivers of wanting, these dog owners to really own, these, the pit bulls, because the stronger they are, the more that they will win in terms of the sport.
We'll talk about breeding in a moment, but some of the pit bull owners, we've seen dozens surrender their animals to the SPCA in the Free State and other parts of the country as well. But some of the pit bull owners who will not be parting with their dogs say that it's unfair to say that their dogs should be banned in the country when they've only been isolated incidents where we've seen, tragically of course, these dogs attacking and even killing children. I think 2 children have died in the Free State alone in as many weeks. How do you respond to that?
Look, there are cases maybe maybe some of the cases are actually unreported. We need to look into these things, because it's one of those things that these incidences are happening, but they're not actually been getting, the whole, the spotlight, because we know some of the cases where individuals were actually beaten, viciously by these actually dogs. But now it's actually coming in the spotlight. Actually, people are becoming aware that these dogs are actually causing terror into our, the communities. And that's why I'm saying that at the beginning, we need not to be emotional about this. This actually been happening, and in many areas actually. If you go into in terms of the YouTubes and everything, where you find that these pit bulls are beating their own owners. So there's been a concern everywhere. It's an international. If countries internationally, they actually have been banning them. And it has been a serious concern. But in South Africa, I think that we have not been paying a serious detailed attention into this. Now these things are coming up. I think we must actually get even more steps, because when we are actually doing this bill, we'll be actually developing a policy. We'll be doing a research of the areas of which this actually has been been happening everywhere. So we'll be developing that and check the areas and all of that. But I think that looking at the trends, I've been reading about it quite a lot. Looking at the trends internationally and everywhere, these dogs have actually been a terror into many communities locally and actually abroad. And we will appeal to the people who are owning them that please, those dogs, they must be taken into the nearest SPCA, so that you free them in terms of the communities which are there.
And for those who you would, let's say, if there were to be a ban effected in the next year, in the next 2 years, through a private member's bill, which you as the EFF are considering bringing, what would happen to the pit bulls already in the country? Where would they go?
Look, they're the only place that they can what can be done is to surrender them to the SPCA. And we'll see in terms of what are the measures that we can do, because these SPCA, they will be keeping them. I know that the countries like overseas, you find that they are banned, but they've actually been kept by the special animal institutions and all of that. And but we know that there are other areas where these animals are banned. And then and you find that they're not even allowed to come into the country. So I think as time goes on, it will actually fade out. There will be no more breeding of these animals as time actually goes. But at this point in time, the only society, the only place that we can actually take all these animals in, so that they can be kept and controlled in an environment, a proper environment, is the SPCA. Right. So that's why we, the EFF, we are encouraging that the only a society or place which is competent to really keep these animals is the SPCA. Let us remove them from our communities. You
mentioned the illegal breeding of dogs in South Africa and their involvement in dog fights, for instance, pit bulls, as we've seen. If you drive around many of our townships, in fact, you'll see a lot of this happening, not necessarily the fighting of the dogs, but people even battling to control the dogs on a leash, right? But when you look at the way in which they're being bred illegally, how much of a complication do you think that would be if there were to be a better regulation around the keeping of pit bulls as dogs? Because who would then assume the responsibility to make sure that we shut down illegal breeders, that these dogs aren't involved, for instance, in dog fighting?
Look, for any legislation that is actually being put in any act, so that we need to find a way in terms of ensuring that we enforce that. So an enforcement of some sort, normally you will have the people like me from the SPCA. Maybe we must look in terms of the area. So there must be an enforcement, the way that we're going to ensure that in these areas we don't have these other these dogs. In other areas, I know that there's been an introduction of chips like the microchips, and also you must be able to, let's say, do a declaration in terms of which kind of a breed that you're actually having at home. So, but I think that for any law that we actually put in Parliament, we must actually put systems in terms of the enforcement. And currently, the people who are actually competent probably in terms of looking into that is the SPCA, because they would be dealing with these animals. They've been dealing with these actually breeds, and this at this point in time, there's no the policing of these animals in terms of what breeds are you doing and all of that. So we need to be tightening up and as well putting up a sort of a unit that will be able to really go around and ensure that these animals are not actually being put in. It's quite a very huge sport. Yeah, it's a huge sport in the areas. I don't know, that is actually a driver in terms of so many people actually wanting to really breed this and actually breed the more vicious they are, the more they're actually going to be winning in terms of these illegal activities, illegal dog fights. And
right.
we need to be put ways and systems to really root out the areas where these dog fights are actually happening, because they are underground. No one actually knows exactly where they are, but we know that in township areas, there are areas where people are doing this, these illegal dog fights.
Mgcini, thank you so much. Mgcini Tshwaku is the Member of Parliament for the EFF, speaking to us about the party's call for the banning of South Africans being allowed to keep pit bulls as pets. Important, of course, to say in that conversation that the illegal breeding of dogs and their involvement in dog fighting, all of it illegal, does not just happen in townships.